Damon Hill is on hot form right now. 2 wins in a row means he has the championship lead. Let's see if he can make it 3 in the 1994 Spanish Grand Prix. Hello everybody and welcome to the 5th round of the 1994 season for the Spanish Grand Prix here on F1 Challenge. We head to the Catalunya circuit today, a track that is quickly growing a reputation for showing a car's true pace, with it often being used as a testing facility for many teams. If you missed the last episode at the Monaco Grand Prix, I would highly suggest checking that one out, as a crazy number of incidents happened up and down the field, eventually leading to a very strange result. Going into this round, Damon Hill holds a 10-point margin atop the championship standings. Following back-to-back victories, his closest championship rivals Schumacher and Berger will look to get back on level terms with the Briton. Meanwhile for us, no points in the past 2 rounds, as well as our first retirement of the season, means that we have fallen into 11th in the drivers' standings. It's hotting up in the constructors with the 3 runaway leaders, Williams, Benetton and Ferrari, all separated by 4 points. Following first podiums of the season for Ligier and Lotus last time out, Sauber are down to 8th position. As I said before, we haven't scored any points in the past 2 rounds, so the objective must be to get into the top 6 once again. If you haven't already, make sure to check out YouTube channel memberships also, thanks to these guys who have already joined. Now let's head into the news of the week. Hello and welcome to the Spanish edition of the news of the week. We've got a lot of news to get through today, so let's jump straight into it. The Monaco Grand Prix has come to an amazing end, and Portugal are now in the history books with the first podium in their country's history, courtesy of Pedro Lamy. The 22-year-old took a maiden podium in amazing fashion, which saw him hold off Jean Alesi in the dying laps. This will see the Lotus team in Monte Carlo and in Hethel be delighted for the driver and the team in general for their first points of the season. We also saw a good outing this week by the Scotsman David Coulthard, who got the Pacific car off the back row of the grid and also finished the team's highest finish of the season in P8. Not great news for the Simtek team, who have also fallen behind again, as they were around a second off in qualifying. Who knows if Simtek will even qualify for a single race. That's from Casey Kirk of Auto Talk Northern Ireland. Well, it was a very well-deserved podium for Pedro Lamy. He had to hold off Jean Alesi in the Ferrari. He's been one of the fastest drivers on the grid, and he did a brilliant job in those last couple of laps to hold him off. Despite all the financial troubles at Lotus, it's very cool to see that Pedro Lamy has become quite a shining light at that team. A tumultuous season for Jyrki Järvelähtö has been further compounded ahead of the Spanish Grand Prix, with the Finn serving a race ban for the Catalunya race. Järvelähtö had previously come under pressure from the stewards following taking out Herbert and Wendlinger in the Pacific Grand Prix, but he was fortunate enough to only receive a grid penalty. The 28-year-old was not so lucky this time, called into the stewarding room again following rejoining unsafely in front of Christian Fittipaldi's footwork, and promptly left after receiving the news looking severely dejected. Järvelähtö must find some form on his return, with the ever-looming speculation of his early exit from the French team, and maybe even Formula 1 as a whole. In his place is Ligier test and reserve driver Eric Bernard. Well, Järvelähtö had a brilliant 1993 season with Sauber scoring almost all of their points, so it is quite strange to see how much he has fallen off in 1994, especially to his teammate Martin Brundle. Who knows, maybe this race ban will give him a fresh reset on everything, and hopefully he can come back in fighting form in the Canadian Grand Prix. The Principality of Monaco left viewers with another fantastic race as Damon Hill emulates his father and wins at Monaco. Immediately after getting out of the car, the emotions were clear to see for everyone, with Damon admitting that this win will stick with me for the rest of my life. He wasn't the only emotional man on the podium, as Martin Brundle and Pedro Lamy scored shock podiums with the attrition rates, with Lamy doing so in only his 5th ever Grand Prix. However, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for Ayrton Senna, his engine catching fire just 8 laps from the end. Senna was left fuming as he stormed from his stricken Williams in disgust. The Brazilian has only scored 1 point in 4 races, and his unhappiness following his DNF has sparked rumours that he might leave Williams, or possibly even take a sabbatical for a few years. That's from Tina Curtis of RTE. It is quite an interesting situation with the world champion team in the form of Williams and one of the best drivers on the grid in Ayrton Senna really struggling to gel in this early part of the season. They haven't even seen the checkered flag so far this season. Hopefully he can bounce back for Spain, where he has been leading the past 2 Grand Prix before retiring. Let's see if he can actually take the win here today. After a particularly chaotic Grand Prix, when the proverbial dust settles, we'll see that it settles on some more than others. After this weekend's Monaco Grand Prix, an event already being etched into the annals of F1 history, the Scuderia have been left to wonder whether they could have been a part of it. Gerhard Berger has been thwarted by mechanical issues again after another stumbling block in an unlikely championship challenge from the 34-year-old Austrian. After continuing his brilliant qualifying form, his race was undone by a suspension failure, losing his championship deadlock to Williams' Damon Hill. Jean Alesi meanwhile was denied a podium by the Lotus of Pedro Lamy after an uncharacteristically unfocused drive, ending up more than a minute behind at the checkered flag. After San Marino, 1994 may not turn out to be the return to title contention that the Tifosi would have wanted. Rather, the sun that Maranello has basked in thus far may be the light of a false dawn. That's from Joaquin Arnoldson of Scuderia Sverige. I think it's clear to see that Ferrari do have the best car on the grid. It's just that the drivers, for some reason, have been unable to make it work so far, especially Jean Alesi. He's made a lot of mistakes so far this season. Maybe it's just the inexperience of actually trying to push for a championship that's causing him to be so unfocused. Maybe as the season progresses, he matures as a driver and puts in some good results to finally put himself into that championship challenge, but for now, it's not looking good for Ferrari. 1993 had been a promising start for the Jordan-Hart partnership, with a podium and 4 points finishes, making it look like that they've been making strides towards the frontrunners. However, results soon tailed off, with 3 points scored in the remainder of the season. Unfortunately, that also includes the 4 races this season, resulting in the team sitting 12th in the standings. Then even made worse by Eddie Irvine's disqualification and subsequent 2-race ban in Aida, it's really looking like a problem down at Jordan. Despite their potential concerns, Jordan's biggest result this season could be a podium in the right circumstances akin to Lamy and Monaco. Therefore, unlike other team struggles, I'm not calling for what should be obvious as with Simtek and Tyrrell. Jordan are just in a unique situation of a quick car with fast drivers. It's just that teams scoring big points in Monaco are fortunate to have one of those. This isn't a time for panic stations, this is a time to weather the storm. That's from Richard A. Harding of the Real-Time Automotive Technology magazine. Yeah, there was such promise for Jordan into this season. They were obviously predicted, I believe, 5th overall by the media, behind the top 4 of Benetton, McLaren, Ferrari and Williams. But right now they haven't really shown that spark to really push for points, to be honest. Barrichello has been there or thereabouts, and Eddie Irvine is really struggling with the car, especially in Aida, when he just made a complete hash of the entire situation with Ayrton Senna and Andrea Montemini. As the season carries on though, I imagine that Jordan will eventually score a point and challenge for the best of the rest positions. It's hard to describe the events of the Monaco Grand Prix without using the words chaotic, shocking and poetic. Cars driving, crashing, rolling and even flying. This was one of these races that happens once every decade and will be talked about years later. Despite praising Sauber and their British driver last time, the loud chants of Harris spin in the bin from UK pubs could be heard over here in Germany after Jaden Harrison and John Alesi competed for the Ballerina Trophy in Monte Carlo. It has been surprisingly quiet on the transfer market, except for a French newspaper claiming that Olivier Panis is in talks with Renault to possibly try and get a seat at a better team after impressing so far in his rookie season. That's from Jason Schieber of Devand. I've still definitely not got my head around these cars so far. Without the traction control, they are quite a menace to drive. Even after the rebalancing of the aerodynamics, it's really a struggle. Also, with Olivier Panis in talks with Renault, so that means either one of Williams or Ligier. But Ligier are kind of in a no man's land, and I think they're possibly even slower than Larousse. So it'd be interesting to see how that one plays out with Olivier Panis. Jean-Marc Gounon replaces the sidelined Luca Badoa at Minardi following a freak accident that saw the Italian vault over the barriers at Monaco's Saint-Devote corner. chasing down Jaden Harrison's Sauber coming out of the pits. Berger lost control when his Ford engine expired on the run into turn 1, causing him to ramp off the Briton's car and exit the confines of the circuit. Berger was extracted from his car unconscious and placed under a short-term coma. It was also found that a marshal was killed in the incident, with 2 more heavily injured. Even despite the safety changes to the cars, it seems that more needs to be done. Well, catch fences around Monaco would be brilliant, but obviously we don't have those so far. Maybe that's a thing that the FIA could think of going into 1995. Jean-Marc Gounon also did a couple of races for Minardi in 1993, and he kind of did a decent job alongside his teammate Christian Fittipaldi. Andrea Montemini will be a good benchmark for the Frenchman as the two venture into Catalunya. Onto the upgrades now, where Benetton look to strike back at Williams with a new spec front wing as they look to increase downforce. McLaren also introduce a new front wing as well as a new body design in an effort to reduce drag. Ferrari and Minardi copy McLaren's strategy with their upgrades. Ferrari also fetch a new diffuser in an effort to increase their downforce, but meanwhile Larousse and Tyrrell's engine suppliers unveil new engines with increased horsepower. Larousse and Pacific also understand the importance of finishing races and as such have brought new gearboxes. Pacific also bring a new rear wing in an effort to increase stability. That's all for the news, now let's head into qualifying. Hello everybody and welcome to Spanish Grand Prix qualifying day here in 1994. It's a lovely Saturday afternoon with the sun shining and the air temperature around 30 degrees Celsius. Sunday though will show quite a contrast to that, as it is expected to be quite rainy, and strategies will have to play a part in the Grand Prix, as we now see that Ukyo Katayama has taken pole position. He's the first one out on circuit. Hopefully for Ukyo Katayama he can get his season on track, as he's really struggled in that Tyrrell, as has his teammate Heinz-Harald Frentzen. The whole team is in quite a bit of trouble, and hopefully with upgrades in the coming rounds they should help them out, hopefully towards the midfield. Pedro Lamy, as you saw there, went to pole position, quickly beaten by Eric Bernard, but Lamy hits back on his second lap by taking pole position for himself. He scored a podium last time out in Monaco, and he'll be hoping to continue that momentum into this Grand Prix. Marc Blundell with a banker lap, not as fast as Pedro Lamy, interestingly. He is a man who has not really been too close to his teammate Michael Schumacher. I'm sure that's what Benetton would have wanted, as there we saw Carl Wendlinger go faster than the rest of them. A lot of drivers have set lap times by this point, about 20 minutes in, although a lot of the front runners, I believe both the Ferraris, both the Williams and the Benetton of Michael Schumacher, are yet to go out on circuit. As we now see our first lap, it was an okay lap, not really pushing too much. As we now come up towards the line, it's second place, albeit just under a second away from provisional pole. Jean Alesi in the Ferrari up towards the line. It's not a great lap at all for the French Sicilian driver, as he goes 8th fastest and is demoted even further down when Michael Schumacher moves up to second, just a couple of tenths behind his teammate Marc Blundell. On our second run now, up towards the line, and that curve, I'm not entirely sure what to do with that curve, to be honest, because obviously you run wider and you get better momentum out the corner, but the curve is quite bumpy, so you also lose momentum if you drive on that curve. Through the first two sectors, we're marginally down through each of them, and through the penultimate corner we're onto the grass, keeping the foot down on the throttle, just about keeping it in a straight line, and up towards the line it's an improvement of a tenth of a second, a decent lap there from us. Damon Hill, the championship leader, he's been in hot form, albeit not in qualifying. Apart from today, he's moving up to pole position himself, ahead of his compatriot, and Ayrton Senna can't beat his teammate's time. Meanwhile, Jean Alesi, we failed to see his lap, but he now moves up to pole position. Ayrton Senna with another lap cannot beat Jean Alesi, so at the moment it's Jean Alesi looking like he will take pole here today, as we get past one of the Simtex there to begin my final lap in the qualifying session.
first sector.
And up towards the line, it's failure to improve as I got off-putted by Damon Hill. He's on an outlap despite being out after the checkered flag. I was quite angry with the Briton, as you can possibly see there, trying to pull alongside and ask, what did you do, Damon? As at the front, it's Sean Lacey who takes his third pole position of the season. This man is becoming quite a master in qualifying. Hello everybody and welcome to 1994 Spanish Grand Prix race day, where we can see on the starting grid that John Lacey has taken his third pole position of the season. He starts 3/10 ahead of his teammate Gerhard Berger in the second Ferrari front row lockout of the season. Ayrton Senna once again starts from the top three in the Williams Renault, and it's an all-Williams affair on the second row with Damon Hill starting alongside. Mark Blundell outqualifies his teammate Michael Schumacher for the first time this season, and he's ahead of Johnny Herbert in the lead McLaren. Eddie Irvine on his return from his race ban is in 7th, followed by us, who received a one-place grid penalty for our reversing shenanigans at Monaco. Michael Schumacher got a 3-place grid penalty for his collision with Luca Badoa, qualified in 6th and is moved down to 9th for his troubles. Carl Wendlinger completes the top 10 with the second McLaren of Felipe Alio in 11th. Christian Fittipaldi completes row 6 in the first footwork, with the Ligier of Eric Bernard outqualifying his teammate impressively, with Rubens Barrichello sandwiched in between the two French cars. Martin Brundle completes the top 15, with Pedro Lamy ever consistent in the midfield. He's in 16th in the Lotus. Gianni Morbidelli in the footwork is up next, followed by Olivier Beretta, who outqualifies his teammate Olivier Panis for the first time this season. It's a season's worst qualifying for the Frenchman, as he starts down in 19th ahead of his compatriot Jean-Marc Gounon, who makes his first start this season with Minardi. Aguri Suzuki is up next in the Lotus, another failure to get into the top 20 in qualifying. Then comes the Tyrrells of Ukyo Katayama, with Frentzen 2 places ahead and Andrea Montemini in between the pair of them. Bertrand Gachot is up next in the Pacific, with David Coulthard completing the grid. That means for the 5th time consecutively this season, it's David Brabham and Roland Ratzenberger failing to qualify. It's a 3-stop strategy today, stopping on lap 14, lap 31 and lap 49, and it is absolutely chucking it down, and it's sure to be an interesting race with this weather.
Hello there. Welcome to Spain. And the weather forecast for today? Well, unpredictable is all that can be said. It could improve, or it could just as easily worsen.
I'm not sure how the commentator can say it can worsen here in Spain. It is monsoonal conditions to start the Grand Prix as we now await the lights. The lights are green, there's racing to be seen. It's a fairly decent start from us, although a little bit of wheel spin in second and third gears, making us lose a couple of places to Michael Schumacher, Carl Wendlinger and Felipe Alio as we fly towards turn 1, the long run in towards the first right-hander on this circuit. Alio looks down the inside of my teammate Carl Wendlinger. I look down the inside of the pair of them and gain the place back on the pair of them. Ukyo Katayama seems to be in a little bit of trouble at the back of the field, as we're now all over the back of Eddie Irvine on these Monsoon tyres. Every driver on the field is on the Monsoon tyres as we head round the outside in towards turn 4. Michael Schumacher looking towards the inside of his teammate. We're looking to the outside of the Ulsterman, and we've clipped him. He's gone spinning round and has collected a number of drivers, and that's looking like a big incident there with Eddie Irvine. Replay here with Ukyo Katayama. He made a decent start looking towards the inside of that's Olivier Panis who is clipped, and he's lost his front wing on the LaRousse driver. He's going to have to come into the pits and well, make an unscheduled pit stop. On board with Philippe Alliot here in the incident between me and Eddie Irvine. I feel like Irvine just slightly went wide into my line. He completely missed the apex, did the Ulsterman, and he goes spinning round, and there's a number of drivers there. Oh, and that's Eric Bernard flipping my teammate over, and I believe my teammate's going to be out of this race. That's the 5th consecutive retirement for my teammate this season. He's had a horrible time of it so far this season, and he's the first retirement of the Grand Prix. Heinz-Harald Frentzen trying to get past one of the Pacifics, and he's also lost his front wing like his teammate, so that's both Tyrrells losing their front wing. Frentzen, unable to slow down, hits the side of his teammate, spins around, and he's going to fall down to last place. Somehow it gets worse and worse and worse for the Tyrrell team. Gerhard Berger looking all over the back of his teammate Jean Alesi. The pole sitter looking very frail in these early stages of the Grand Prix. There's contact between the pair of Ferrari drivers as Gerhard Berger looks towards the inside of the final couple of corners. On the inside of the penultimate corner, pushed on the curb by the French Sicilian. Can he make the place though? You can barely see what's happening with the TV cameras. The fog is that thick. As here on the end of lap 1, Gerhard Berger leads the way ahead of his teammate Jean Alesi. Damon Hill and Ayrton Senna both on a watching brief. The two Williams and the two Ferraris all separated by less than a second as they start lap 2. Johnny Herbert's had a great start. He's up a single place into 5th, with Michael Schumacher the biggest gainer in the points. He's up 3 places from 9th to 6th. Mark Blundell's lost a couple of places with myself in 8th, and Philippe Alliot, and oh, that's the two footworks, they're battling hard. Christian Fittipaldi and Gianni Morbidelli's made a great start. He's up 6 places as he tries to look towards the inside of his Brazilian teammate, almost crashing his teammate out the Grand Prix, and Gianni Morbidelli moves up into 10th place. That's 7 places gained for the Italian. We're trying to keep up with Mark Blundell, and it seems like we're doing a fairly decent job. Half a second behind the Benetton driver, and we're already 6 seconds ahead of the car behind in the form of Philippe Alliot. In the pit lane, oh, and that's a crash between Olivier Panis and Ukyo Katayama. The grip must be that low that both drivers have collected each other in the pit lane, and the pair of them will be out of the Grand Prix. We're all over the back of Mark Blundell, looking towards the outside of turn 3. It'll be a very brave move if we can make that work on the Benetton driver. Not quite. He gets the run out of turn 3, but through turn 4, goes swooping completely round the outside of Mark Blundell. Can he hold it on the inside, or will we make up the place? It turns to the inside for turn 5, and we do indeed make that place up, and we move up into 7th place. That's a very tidy move from us there. Let's get a replay of what happened. Just using the karting line, really, it just helped us massively with keeping up our average speed, and up the inside in towards turn 5, and that's a place gained on a Benetton for the first time this season. We're beating a Benetton on pace. The end of lap 2, and the conditions are very treacherous, so much so that we've spun round. Harry spin in the bin once more, and we go spinning round. Mark Blundell takes back that place, but we only lose a couple of seconds from that one. Gianni Morbidelli is looking very strong in these early phases of the Grand Prix. He's now all over the back of the McLaren of Philippe Alliot in the battle for 9th position, side by side, just like how Berger and Alesi were in the first lap. These two are going side by side as well on the second lap. Morbidelli trying to force his way through on the French reserve driver, and he makes up the place up into the top 9. It's been a fantastic start for Gianni Morbidelli, and maybe, just maybe, he can catch up to us and pressure us for 8th place. Damon Hill with a lot of pace in these early conditions. The Ferrari's struggling. Look at how much or how little grip Jean Alesi had through turn 3. Damon Hill will say thank you very much, and he quickly dispatches of the French Sicilian driver. Is now all over the back of Gerhard Berger for the lead. Can he look to the inside? No, he's looking to the outside for turn 5. Can he make it move? Can he make the move? Surely not completely round the outside. He has made it work round the outside, and Damon Hill takes the lead. The championship leader is now also the race leader of the Spanish Grand Prix. That's a fantastic move on the pair of Ferraris to make that up into the lead. The end of the third lap, and Bertrand Gachot's looking like he's in trouble. Sounds like he's been also collected there by Aguri Suzuki, as we've now caught up to the back of Marc Blundell. We're going to replay of what happened with Bertrand Gachot. Look at the conditions. You can barely see a thing on the TV cameras. And they're just pulling off on the racing line. Aguri Suzuki cannot see Bertrand Gachot one bit. Neither can Jean-Marc Gounon, clearly, as he's just gone smashing straight into the back of the Pacific driver. And Jean-Marc Gounon and Aguri Suzuki will both have to come into the pits for new front wings. Gerhard Berger on the end of lap 4, or the start of lap 4, I believe this is now, has a run on Damon Hill's lead. Can he look towards the inside into the first corner? It's going to be close between the pair of them. I think there was contact between the two, and Gerhard Berger retakes the lead of the 1994 Spanish Grand Prix. Further on in lap 4, however, and Damon Hill is not letting this one lie down. He's looking towards the inside, possibly. He is looking towards the inside. There's contact between him and the Austrian of Berger. And he makes up the place, a brilliant exit into the final sector, and Damon Hill retakes the lead. It's a fantastic battle to watch between all these front-running cars, as Jean Alesi gets caught up behind one of the Tyrrells lapping them, and Michael Schumacher makes him pay the price. He's now up into the podium places, is the Benetton driver. Hopefully he can now chase down the front two in Gerhard Berger and Damon Hill. Obviously they're not too far in front, as there's a mistake from us. The first true mistake, I believe. Alright, oh yeah, completely forgot we had a spin just 2 laps ago. So we went a bit deep there. Obviously we are quite fast in these conditions. I do have to say, we are really keeping up and catching Marc Blundell. We just need to find a little bit of consistency, and we might be able to challenge for the points today on pace through the final corner. And we might have a run here. No, not quite. That's a poor exit after nearly spinning through the final corner. Lap 5 now, and Marc Blundell is looking very vulnerable in these early wet conditions. Coming out of turn 4 is a good exit versus the Benetton driver. Can we make the Benetton driver pay? He's holding the inside line. You can see how much we're struggling, tiptoeing round the slow speed corners. Just really struggling to find any form of grip on the front or rear tyres. And now, through the Nissan chicane, we're going to have a great run, looking towards the inside. Although it's quite bumpy on the inside there, so we're going to have to lift off. Marc Blundell keeps the place. We go round the outside, possibly, of the Benetton driver. And that's the second time this race that we've got past Marc Blundell round the outside. So a number of great overtakes from us. And now the gap to Johnny Herbert is 10 seconds up the road. The grid spread in these conditions is quite large, and it's really putting the driver's skill set to the test here in these very, very challenging conditions. Gerhard Berger with Michael Schumacher all over the back of him on lap 6. Michael Schumacher makes the move towards the inside. Michael Schumacher makes his way up onto the podium. Lap 7, and Johnny Herbert is way up the field. He's about 2 seconds lap faster than us right now, but we are still pulling away from Marc Blundell at a rate of about half a second to a second a lap, depending on whether we make any mistakes. This has been a good lap though. 1 minute 50.7 sees us lose only about half a second to the car in front. Lap 10 now, and it's been quite a quiet race for us. We're gapping the car behind, but being gapped by the car in front as well, so we're falling into a little bit of a no man's land, almost hitting the wall there. Had to flick the steering just to avoid the wall, got ourselves into a spin. No harm done there, a few seconds lost, but other than that, it's perfectly fine. Let's have a look at that incident once again. It was just a lack of traction. The lack of grip is really immense in these early conditions. It is expected to dry up, but hopefully, for our sake at least, I'd prefer these conditions in all fairness, because we are fairly quick in it. And when we're not making mistakes, I believe we are quicker than Johnny Herbert. On board now with Gerhard Berger in 3rd position. He's overtaken John Lacey, and so has his teammate Ayrton Senna. Ayrton Senna now up into 4th position behind Gerhard Berger, and I think it'll only be a matter of time until Senna get past Gerhard Berger, unless John Lacey looks back up the inside in towards turn 1 on the following lap. Side by side between the two championship protagonists, you might be able to call them, although neither of them have scored that many points this season. Side by side through turn 3, and John Lacey gets the ascendancy once again on Ayrton Senna. Lap 12 now, the following lap, and Ayrton Senna is trying to pressure the two Ferraris into making a mistake, and that's a mistake from Ayrton Senna! Ooh, that was very close for Ayrton Senna, nearly crashing into the wall and nearly ending his race there and then. You can see that the conditions are starting to improve. A lot less rain coming off, coming down from the sky, of course. And there goes John Lacey. As the conditions improve, so does his pace, and he is up into 3rd position. Lap 14, we're already at the first pit stops of this Grand Prix, and we pull into the pits for the first time in this race, as does Johnny Herbert. We followed the McLaren driver into the pits. There's Johnny Herbert being serviced. And in we come for our first pit stop. 8.6 seconds, our stop. And we re-emerge still ahead of Mark Blundell. We pulled quite a gap in front of the Briton, and we remain in 7th place. A lap later, lap 15, and Damon Hill, the race leader, is into the pits, possibly also suggesting he's on a 3-stop strategy just like ourselves. And he boxes. That means that Michael Schumacher will take the lead of the Spanish Grand Prix. He started down in 9th position, and after just 15 laps, he's into the lead of the Grand Prix. John Lacey now on the back of Damon Hill following his pit stop, although John Lacey now peels off into the pit lane himself. So possibly John Lacey also on a 3-stop strategy. Who actually knows in these early phases? Obviously, if the conditions improve, then we'll be changing tyres every couple of laps, I imagine. Lap 18, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen is trying to get past Aguri Suzuki in the pit lane. He's spun round Aguri Suzuki, unable to stop his car. He tries to stop for his pit box, and Martin Brundle doesn't see him either. He's pushing him out of the pit lane, and now Heinz-Harald Frenzen's got to do another lap in these conditions. Hopefully he doesn't run out of fuel, but I think Aguri Suzuki might be out of this race from that incident. Lap 19, and conditions are beginning to improve, although it is still quite treacherous out here. Yellow flags up in front. Johnny Herbert's losing a lot of time. Oh, and there's Johnny Herbert in the wall there. I believe he's been involved in an incident with Rubens Barrichello. So let's see what happened with the McLaren man. In 6th place, well, he isn't anymore. We get sideswiped there by Rubens Barrichello, probably not being able to see him in these very, very wet conditions. The mist behind the mirrors making visibility almost zero in these conditions, and he falls down to 7th place. He's going to need to pit for a new front wing, and obviously now that moves us up into the points paying positions, albeit 23 seconds behind Gerhard Berger. Lap 20, and the gap is increasing to Gerhard Berger in front. We're trying to push hard to try and build out a gap to Mark Blundell as the conditions improve. Oh, and that's sliding on the exit of the last corner, and we've lost our front wing. Fortunately, I don't think we've taken that much more damage, and it's only a front wing with no suspension damage for us. And oh, that's Eddie Irvine mounting Christian Fittipaldi in the pit lane there. As down the pit lane comes David Coulthard. He's unable to stop, and he's crashed straight into the back of Eddie Irvine. That means Eddie Irvine is out of the Grand Prix. Eric Bernard also in the pit lane. He's also crashed into Eddie Irvine, and Eric Bernard is also another driver out of the race. A lot of the chaos is happening in the pit lane rather than out on track today. So as there we get a live feed. I was there witnessing the absolute carnage that was happening in the pit lane. I'm gonna just subtly avoid all the incidents and rejoin in 7th position. Ayrton Senna also coming out the pit lane. Oh, and he's also crashed into the stricken cars. He's flipped over as Ayrton Senna. Is that another retirement for the Brazilian? No, he is coming out the pits without a front wing, and his airbox severely damaged from that incident, but he's able to carry on and emerge just in front of one of the Ferraris there. Lap 22, and Michael Schumacher is now boxing for the wet tyres. He's gone from the monsoons to the wets, and Damon Hill also follows him in on the same lap. These two could possibly be on a two-stop strategy, stopping on this lap of the Grand Prix as Michael Schumacher re-emerges from the pit lane, still in the lead of the Grand Prix. Lap 23, and we can see that Michael Schumacher has gained 8 places from his starting place. Damon Hill's also made a great start to this race as Gerhard Berger completes the podium. Ayrton Senna has opted to stay out as he believes that the conditions are not that bad without a front wing. Obviously so little grip, and I think all the grip that you need in these conditions is mechanical grip essentially, as downforce is doing very little to affect pace. We're up into 6th place, 2 places up on our starting position, as the person who's gained the most places is Andrea Montemini, who's gained 11 positions from his 23rd place starting slot. Lap 22, and Mark Blundell is into the pits for his first stop of the Grand Prix, as we nearly have another spin at the final corner despite changing tyres and the conditions improving. It's still very treacherous out here on these tyres, as Johnny Herbert on lap 27 has now gotten past Mark Blundell. Let's get a replay of what happened there. Up the inside goes Johnny Herbert, and that's a nice move there for the McLaren man. He's up into 7th position, and I imagine very quickly he'll be on the back of us for the points paying positions. Lap 30, and he's done exactly that. Just 3/10 behind. He's gaining about 3 seconds a lap as the McLaren man. We defend the inside going into the final sector, so he can't find a way through. But he's still hounding us for that 6th position. He's got better straight line speed. Lamborghini power versus Mercedes power. He's much more confident on the brakes. I don't fight it. He's not really our race. He was in front of us in the first place, and Johnny Herbert takes 6th place in this Grand Prix. You can just see though how much grip that we've got compared to Johnny Herbert. We've basically got nothing compared to the Briton. As now on lap 34, Damon Hill is caught up to the back of Michael Schumacher. There's contact between the pair of them on lap 34. Michael Schumacher still holds on to the race lead, but I feel like it's only going to be a matter of time until Damon Hill gets through. Still on lap 34, halfway around the lap now, and Damon is all over the back of the German. He's diving it towards the inside. He's unable to stop. He's clipped the back of Jean-Marc Goun. Unfortunately for the Frenchman, he's managed to keep it pointing in the right direction, but Damon Hill takes the lead of the Spanish Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher opts to box for the intermediate tyres. Lap 35, and Damon Hill responds. Let's see if the overcut or the undercut is the best strategy to be on. Into the pits comes Damon Hill for his 2nd stop of the Grand Prix. Now, where is Michael Schumacher? He's rounding the final 2 corners, and will it be enough to fetch him out in the lead of this Grand Prix? Obviously, Damon Hill was ahead, and he's now coming down the pit lane. Michael Schumacher coming down the pit straight. It's possibly going to be side by side between the two of them. It is going to be side by side, but Michael Schumacher takes the lead. A great stop from the Benetton pit crew to fetch him out in the lead of the Spanish Grand Prix. Damon Hill will not be happy about that one, as he emerges about half a second behind his championship rival. Lap 34, and Johnny Herbert into the box once again. I believe he's going onto the intermediate tyres, as we're now down into the 1 minute 36s. At the start of the race we were in the mid 1 minute 50s, so the conditions have greatly improved. Into the box on lap 36, a 7.7 second stop. It's going to re-emerge us in 7th position once again. None of the front runners seeming to drop out this race, so if we want to get points, we're going to have to beat Johnny Herbert, I believe. Lap 38, and Olivier Beretta is into the box for his first stop, and that's him being spun round by Ayrton Senna. Olivier Beretta stalls the car, and he is out of the race. Michael Schumacher boxes on lap 40, so he's in just a couple of laps later after he was previously, and the radio suggests that he is boxing for the dry tyres. Damon Hill, though, takes the lead of the Spanish Grand Prix, and just a lap later he's also in for the dry tyres. So let's see if this strategy works for Damon Hill. The overcut, once again, it failed last time. Let's see if it can work out for him this time. Michael Schumacher already round the final corner, and Damon Hill still in his pit box, so it's been a fantastic outlap for Michael Schumacher, as he's got a great lead on his rival Damon Hill in this Grand Prix. Where even is Hill? Hill's only just now coming out the pit lane, and Hill is about 10 seconds behind Michael Schumacher, so it's been a fantastic strategy for Benetton to fetch Michael out in the lead of the Grand Prix. I'm seeing a lot of the front runners in the pits now for dry tyres, so we also are opting to box for the dry tyres, as we've now got Mark Blundell all over the back of us. Is he going to box? No, he opts to stay out, so he's going to extend on his intermediates ahead of us into the box now for what is our third stop of the Grand Prix. We're unable to stop, go straight through our pit crew, and we get rolled back into our pit slot there. Let's see how good the stop is. It's a fairly decent stop, but I don't think it's ready for dry tyres. I don't know why I was called into the pits. I don't know how the other drivers are able to keep it pointing in the right direction, but we've got absolutely no grip on the dry tyres. We've spun round straight away, and let's see if we can get it going on the dry tyres. There's still absolutely no grip. I don't understand how the other drivers are able to drive in these conditions, but we've got absolutely nothing to give. We're falling down position after position, losing time over fist, and we just go spinning off at turn 1. We've got absolutely nothing in these tyres, and it seems like a terrible strategy call down at Sauber as we spun off into the gravel at turn 1. We try and get it going. Down in 11th place now, so any chance of points is pretty much gone. Still trying to keep it on the racing line, but we've just gone spearing off into the gravel. Oh, and that's a heavy hit into the wall. The engine's blown, wheels are falling off the car, and that's going to be the end of our race on lap 41. I was very angry at the time with this incident. Obviously, we were in a great chance of scoring points in this Grand Prix if anything happened for the front runners ahead, but instead it's going to be our second retirement of the season and our third race running where we fail to score points. Here's another replay, which is nothing, absolutely nothing to give, and we retire the car. Let's get a replay on board with Mark Blundell as well. You can just see just nothing, absolutely nothing. It was so frustrating that I concentrated for that long, and that was the result of the race. Meanwhile, the result of Johnny Herbert's race is the side of the road. An engine failure for his Lamborghini engine means that he is out of the Grand Prix. Lap 45, 2/3 race distance, and Michael Schumacher leads the way about 10 seconds ahead of Damon Hill. Jean Alesi looking set for a podium finish here today, with Gerhard Berger completing the top 4, Ayrton Senna in 5th, with Mark Blundell completing the points. Martin Brundle and Gianni Morbidelli are fighting pretty hard here for 7th position, as Gianni Morbidelli actually got past Martin Brundle in those past couple of corners. A person who's gained a lot of places is David Coulthard. He's up 13 places, as well as Andrea Montemini. He's also up 13 places, as we now have 14 drivers left in the Grand Prix. Jean-Marc Gounon rearing the field, with Johnny Herbert out of the race in 15th. Martin Brundle all over the back of Gianni Morbidelli in the battle for 7th position. This could be a point if there's reliability problems up ahead. Martin Brundle switches to the inside once again into the third to last corner, and he gets the place ahead of Gianni Morbidelli. That's experience paying dividends there for Martin Brundle. Gianni Morbidelli's not letting this one go though, as on the inside of turn 1 for lap 54. He tries and looks down the inside, can't make the move stick. Once again, Gianni Morbidelli on lap 56, looking side by side with Martin Brundle. The experienced Briton, though, should be able to hold this one off, looking or defending the inside, and he keeps the place. Gianni Morbidelli unable to find a way through. Michael Schumacher looking comfortable to take his second victory of the season. He hasn't won since Interlagos, the first round of the season. He'd love to increase his tally of race wins. But there, oh, he's spun! He's clipped the back of Felipe Alio's McLaren, and that's Michael Schumacher into the gravel. Fortunately for him, no damage, and he's able to continue, but that's going to open up an opportunity for Damon Hill to possibly try and snatch this race win. Unfortunately though, that time never came, as Michael Schumacher just extended the gap from that point forward as he rounds the final corner for the final time. It's the second race win of the season for Michael Schumacher. He wins the 1994 Spanish Grand Prix. So then it's Michael Schumacher who takes his second victory of the season. He finishes 9 seconds ahead of championship leader Damon Hill. Jean Alesi collects his second podium of the season in third place, but he'll be quite frustrated that he wasn't any closer to the front two. Gerhard Berger makes it 2 Ferraris in the top 4, with Ayrton Senna and Marc Blundell completing the points. Martin Brundle just misses out, with Gianni Morbidelli, Felipe Alio and Andrea Montemini, a measured drive from the Minardi driver, to finish in the top 10. Christian Fittipaldi, Heinz-Harald Frenz and David Coulthard were those who were classified, with Jean-Marc Gounon 8 laps down and counted as a non-classification as he failed to reach 90% distance. 14 cars reached the checkered flag and 12 retired, the latest of those retirements being Johnny Herbert with that engine failure. He was set for points, but unfortunately it's another retirement for the Briton, his third one of the season. Speaking of retirements, that's our first back-to-back retirement of our Formula 1 career after crashing out on lap 40. Not many mechanical retirements, as Olivier Beretta, Irvine, Bernard, Lamy, Suzuki, Barrichello and Katayama all retired because of crashes, as well as Carl Wendlinger, who got rolled over by Eric Bernard. It was Bertrand Gachot and Olivier Panis. Turns out he had an engine failure in the pit lanes. So there was 3 mechanical retirements in all, as Damon Hill gets the fastest lap with a 1 minute 24.129. What does this mean then for the championship standings? It means that the gap at the top has been slashed by Michael Schumacher. The gap that was once 10 points is now down to 6, 32 points for Damon Hill and 26 for Michael Schumacher's Benetton. Gerhard Berger scores his first points for the first time since the Pacific Grand Prix in 4th place. Then comes Marc Blundell and Jean Alesi, who are each on 11 points. Ayrton Senna also sees the checkered flag for the first time this season, scoring a 5th place and moving up to 12th place in the drivers' standings. In the Constructors' Championship, it's once again change at the top, as Benetton now lead Williams by 2 points, 37 points, place 35, with Ferrari not far behind, just 5 points further back. Meanwhile, further down in the Constructors' Championship, no other teams were able to score points in this Grand Prix. That's all for today's video, and thank you for watching the Spanish Grand Prix. It was a very difficult race to drive and quite a frustrating end, but hopefully we can bounce back next time in Montreal. If you enjoy the content, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We're closing in on 750 subscribers, and I would like to do so before the end of 2025. And also, if you want to support the channel further, make sure to check out YouTube channel memberships. That's going to be all from me in today's video, and goodbye.